Well, they've always been in
Right.
control of the software and the hardware.
Yeah.
And as soon
right.
as as soon as they give it, they know as soon as they give up the hardware side, all hell breaks loose.
Over the last handful of years, there's been a lot of changes in audio that enhanced or changed the landscape of audio quite considerably. You have like iPod, obviously, a pretty big one. It got a lot of people into music, Bluetooth headphones and things like that. Like all these various things that are now, as a result, having the vast majority of people interested in music. But what's missing? What could be added? Where do you think it could go that would have a massive change in the adoption, the desirability, or whatever? I got a few ideas.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Please do.
So for me, I think the biggest impact for the majority of people, and I guess to some extent for me personally, is going to be just convenience. Convenience almost always wins out. That's pretty obvious. You look at history. People like to do less when they have the option instead of doing more. And of course, especially when you're talking about something that's more or less, it's designed to be a leisure activity. Doing less makes it more accessible, more desirable.
Yeah, I always kind of like that I could turn my stereo on and it's ready to play.
Yeah.
You know, the only
Like
thing that I do
electricity.
is because of the cost of running big amps all the time,
Yeah.
usually got to give it a half hour to warm the amps
Well, you
up
just got to
because
know ahead of time.
yeah, right. Warm amps sound better than cold amps. That's just the way it is. You know, that's the nature of solid state.
Oh, and DAX.
Well, maybe it
Yes.
doesn't have to be, though. So you got to use your imagination.
Okay, well, it's true. How would you fix that? Well, you'd need a couple 1,000-watt heater and have an instant.
Well, you don't need that
5-minute
much.
No,
warm-up
no,
time.
we're talking a bigger scale than this.
Oh,
You could theoretically design an amplifier that doesn't sound different and sounds perfect when it's
That's-
cold
you're
and
right.
does not change whatsoever.
You're
This
right.
is theoretically feasible.
I
I,
think
just
we'd-
don't think people put the effort into
okay.
figuring that out.
Well, then we'd have to go down to the transistor die level and
Oh, of
figure out what's
course.
going on from the temperature coefficient.
Why is that happening? Yeah.
Because it is the transistors that are changing with the
Right.
temperature. Yeah. And biasing to a little bit effect. Yes, but you're right. You can auto bias. You can make it preset. You're right. If you looked at it hard enough,
What's left out right now in audio?
you'd probably be 100 years old by the time you finish the project, but you could probably figure it out. And
Yeah, but just theoretically, it's a thought challenge.
yeah,
here.
no, but you're right. Yeah.
Well, there is a problem there, though, because sometimes people get too focused on one specific aspect they're designing for and then forget about other things. You need someone there to be like, but remember.
Yeah, right.
With
you know,
time,
Yeah.
that gets weeded out, though.
Yeah.
Like if somebody figures out this like cold start, warm up, sound good circuit thing, with enough time, everyone will start to implement it. It'll be a trivial solution that'll be integrated into everything.
I think it's easier just to turn it on.
That's what I
half
mean.
hour before you
The
listen.
thing is we know the solution right now. You just
Yeah.
turn it on.
Yeah, but is that
Easy.
a roadblock?
No, not really.
To some extent, it is. I would say for me.
Well, if you forget, then you just ignore it for the first half hour and do something else, like read a book or
Okay. Oh,
search
read a
the
book
internet or
while you're waiting for your HiFi
watch a
to warm
YouTube
up.
video while you're waiting. There's other things. God damn, there better be other things to do than just listen to music. But okay, But that's just one thing. But yeah, Well, one thing comes to mind too is like recently I've been telling people that having the likes of a network deck in house, like I got the Lean at home now, the new DCS piece, and it's Rune ready, which allowed me to use Rune, which I haven't used before, which opened up a whole much easier setup in terms of my system because I eliminated the laptop and a USB cable that I was using to my DAC that wasn't network ready. So
Right.
now I plug a Cat 6 cable into the Lena, and it's connected to my network and the internet and all that fun stuff, and it deals with it.
Convenience.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
deals with it. One cable done, and from my iPad, without having any wires hooked up, I can choose whatever source I want. I could play local files. I could play Tidal, and it all goes through that one Cat cable through the DAC and winds up in my stereo system. And I don't think people realize how nice that is until you do it. Like,
It
you
is
don't
nice.
even think about, oh, big deal, so you eliminated the laptop. Yeah, the laptop's sitting on the floor that I had to kneel down to go at, or wherever you have it, because there's usually not space for it on a rack. It's somewhere in a stupid
Right.
area where it's like a pain in the ass to get to.
There's a cable running into it, so it's less portable than you might like.
Yeah. So then you're looking for some sort of remote software, maybe to run the laptop, to run the
Which
DAC.
you can do, and
Yeah.
then it gets more
Well,
complicated.
even that's clunky.
Yeah.
You run into issues. Something gets a software update. It stops working. You're trying to configure it.
Yeah.
Right.
So the lazy enemy just said, screw it, I'll put an album on a laptop and let it play, and that's it. I'd rather jump through tracks, you know. And of course, you can make a playlist and all that stuff. I get that, but you know what I mean?
But you don't end up doing it.
No,
because of convenience.
Right.
It's understandable.
In the end, that's not what you're there for. You're there to chill out, not make more work for yourself. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. So for me, I think without a doubt, the future of audio and whatnot is convenience. And we're seeing it more and more, Bluetooth and streaming and things like this. Obviously, it's easier than wires and dealing with your own music yourself, going to the store and buying the album. And some people would allege, well, there's a certain fancy bit lost in that, looking at the album art, looking at the physical album and picking it out in the store. To some degree, I agree, but the convenience obviously wins out because it's such a profound difference. And taking it a step further, what if you could eliminate the hardware? Like theoretically, you have like Neuralink or something like that. What if you could get perfect sound in your head? Would people even want that? That's the interesting thing.
Not initially. They won't.
Yeah,
I think
right.
probably not actually.
Right, well, be like this guy here.
Yeah.
Like, but the convenience.
Back off, big boy.
So that's peak convenience. If you take it to more the extreme, things just work like magic, and you just think and it happens.
Well,
Or maybe even you don't think, it just happens without you thinking.
oh yeah. Well, it could get
That's getting
complicated. Yeah. But we're kind of there because now that he was mentioning, with this network streaming and all that, and one step further past that is that now I'm running Apple Music everywhere here on an Apple TV, and it's all logged into my account. So I just where I left off, get in the car, still all the same playlists and everything.
Right.
When I'm at home, same thing I was listening here. Now all day here, I could,
The story goes
change it.
on.
Yeah.
There's not breaks in the story or
Yeah.
what you're listening to. Every time you freaking turn the car off.
That flow's big,
Yeah.
Right.
right? Because like our cars, they have
Right. Flow's the word.
I would agree. Yes,
Yeah.
they have built-in internet connections, which doesn't seem like that big of an advantage, I don't think, if you tell people this. But in practice, unfortunately, this is about all they have integrated that works well. So I'm using Tidal in my car, which is fine. And what that means is I could have one streaming service that I use in multiple apps, and I have a good continuity of experience. Right. So I get in the car. Right when I get in the car, I don't hit anything. I don't play anything. I open the door. I close it. The car's on. It starts playing exactly where it left off. And if I change something, if I add a song to my favorite album, it's all automatically updated. It automatically updates my experience based on what I like and dislike based on my usage elsewhere. And things like that are really convenient. The continuity is fantastic.
In fact, did you see that? I forgot about that. Roon just announced that they're doing that mobile.
Oh yeah.
They're
I
letting
didn't
you
see
take
that.
their app mobile. Apparently it still talks to your box at home, your Roon
Yeah.
net server
Nucleus.
at home. Yeah, Nucleus. But now you could do it anywhere from your phone, anywhere. So it's still capturing everything from home. Must open up an IP to the
Well, that makes sense.
yeah.
Because that is a limitation right now. If you have one device that supports one service, another device that supports another service, you get this issue. You get conflicts, right? You got 5 different video streaming services, and it's a project to deal with them. I just want one. I just want to play the video. I don't care what service is providing it.
But the craziness of that is now you've got your whole digital world. It has continuity,
Right.
Because it's not just Tidal, it's not just Apple Music. It's everything that Roon accesses.
Right.
Your local files, you could play it wherever the hell you are.
Mm-hmm.
So that means I could play my I'm assuming that means we haven't seen it. I could play my DSD files from home.
Well, depending
in
on
my
internet
car,
connection.
on my car. Well, yeah.
You get fast enough.
I'm okay. I don't have a DAC that'll handle it natively, but it's got. I must have. I don't know. We haven't gone there, but that's kind of crazy if you think about that. That you could have continuity from home systems to wherever, which is kind of what the iPod did.
Sort
what
of,
the
but
phones
it's
did,
streaming.
where you were able to take your music with you.
Right.
But that was limited into what you could put in the phone, what the device would
It had
hold.
format limitations.
Yeah, what it could play, right.
Right.
Where now it might not be a limitation.
Well, this is, I think, a step in the right direction because it's where things need to go. And we kind of sort of, I think in a regard, took a step back when we moved to streaming in some regards. Because I was using Subsonic and iSub to stream music from a local library on my phone. So I could play any format. And you could choose on the device to either have it actively transcoded or not. You could pick any format, any bit rate. You could stream FLAC, Apple lossless, whatever you want, or you could have it transcoded actively. And you could have then continuity of service no matter where you were. as long as you had an iOS device, web browser, Android device.
Yeah. But you had to host it
But you had to
yourself.
manage
yeah.
and host, right? So
Well, that's beyond
that's the
most
trouble.
people.
Yeah.
For most people, it's too much of a challenge. And then you got to manage your library, which it's a project,
That's
a lot of work.
That's
And
like
a
old
lot,
iTunes.
lot of storage.
New album comes out, you got to get it,
Yeah.
make sure the album art's
Right.
right, the tags are correct. It's
Yeah,
a real
that's
project.
the problem. That was the reason why a lot of people never really adopted digital heavily.
Hassles.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It was constant incompatibility issues. and
Always.
everything skipping and doesn't play this file, plays that file because not all files come from the same source. So
Right.
you don't know whether it's properly done or not.
Yeah, that's a big problem. Actually, it used to be.
Shared files were brutal, and you get music from other people, and it doesn't play right or it skips, and for all kinds of reasons. But yeah, anyway, the good news is, it seems like the digital world is coming together for audio in a big way, and that'll trickle down obviously over time. It's got to.
It's the logical step.
Yeah.
So we'll see where it goes, but I think we're going to see more integration, more ease of use. And the biggest limitation right now is you have different companies that do this stuff.
Well, especially
And-
the likes of Apple.
Right. A Goliath like Apple, they're not going to be too thrilled about integrating title streaming into their phone. Right. So you could download the app. Cool. And that's fine. That's good enough. But what if you don't care what source it comes from? You just want it to play. And it's easy to do in software right now, but it isn't being done because Spotify doesn't want to integrate with anyone else. Tidal doesn't want to integrate. Apple Music doesn't want to integrate.
Well, Tidal integrates with Rune.
Yeah, but that's
Apple
a different
doesn't.
hardware source. I'm saying the music sources need to be pushed together. So now you need a box just to integrate your sources. Like it could be done.
Well, that's what
without
Rune-
the box.
that's what Rune
the
Nucleus is
Nucleus
doing.
does.
Yeah, right. But it's additional hardware. I'm
Right.
thinking you could imagine this
yeah.
not existing and everything just working. Right. The box is trying to make your stuff just work, and it does that.
Yeah, I
but
guess
it's
there's-
another box.
Well, I guess
it's an
there's no
extra
good way
layer.
to do that on an individual level, but you could. Obviously, someone's going to want to make money on it.
Of course.
So regardless of where the box is,
Right.
like really, I think that's where this is going too. If you
yeah,
think
there's a
about
server somewhere. You have
it.
nothing to do with
right.
it. Yeah.
And you just happen to have personal space on it that all your, that would the difference would be there. You'd have to have all your personal music in that space too. If you're
Apple
worried
sort of
about
does that though.
yeah.
In their own little ecosystem. You could have your tracks in your actual physical library that you store local. You could have them matched and have them streamed, which is very interesting.
But they won't be your tracks; they're their tracks.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, so that's not always the same thing.
No,
Matched
but it's
by
pretty
name.
close.
Yeah, I
It's
hear
not
ya.
bad. You don't have to
Right.
buy the track.
That's pretty cool.
They say because you have physical access to this track, we'll
Yeah.
give you our access to our track.
That's cool. I mean, that's cool. And you think about that's how they're trying. It's down back to the convenience. They're
Right.
trying to make it as convenient as possible for you to use their service, where it doesn't to switch. Let's say you're switching to it. If you're already in that thing,
Yeah, then
then
whatever.
to you
Yeah.
it probably wouldn't matter. But if you're switching to try it or just trying it, you're going and you realize the ease of use relative to where you were, like I did when I was using a USB cable on a laptop. Like now I get it. And unfortunately, sometimes you just got to experience it to
Right.
get it.
Right.
People could tell you about it. It's like, so
Yeah.
what?
You don't care.
It's more
Yeah.
work. I got to set that up. You think about what you got to do before you get there. But when you get there, you're like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah. Well, I know I have one little bump left in my ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's one thing, and I don't know if Elon's probably not watching this, but he needs to
I doubt
add
it.
the app into the car
For Apple Music?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody asked him about
Yeah,
it.
someone even asked
Or
him. He
Room.
says he Bluetooth uses Bluetooth on his phone with Apple
Well, that's
Music.
a weird thing. Elon alleges in an interview he uses Apple Music exclusively on his phone and he Bluetooths it.
It's
to the
not
car,
Elon,
which is
it's
weird.
Apple. Because Apple doesn't integrate with anything. Only their own stuff. They're in their own ecosystem.
I mean, maybe.
It could be.
You
yeah.
can't play
could
Apple
be.
on Rune. You can't play it on anything. In fact, as far as I know, there's nothing that integrates with
Well, they
Apple
want to control the
except
experience.
Apple.
And I
Yeah.
guess an issue is Apple also has
Yeah.
allegedly a car coming out. So it's,
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I don't care though.
do we want
Put it in
Tesla
the car.
integration?
Well, they've always been in
Right.
control of the software and the hardware.
Yeah.
And as soon
right.
as as soon as they give it, they know as soon as they give up the hardware side, all hell breaks loose. Because
But if you think of it from a larger picture, that's what we're seeing a lot of now. We're seeing companies that have control over intellectual property or some sort of attribute or some sort of marketplace or something. They're limiting what you could do artificially through software. They're limiting what your hardware could do. Hardware is capable of streaming from any device, but it's not allowed for one reason or another. And I think with time, consumers will start to sort of demand it to the point where they're required.
Yeah, agreed.
But today,
Well, particularly with
consumers
music.
don't know to ask.
well, particularly with music, I mean, it's not a software hardware thing with music. It's music.
to the consumer, but
Right.
not to the companies that own the rights to these
Right.
artists and own the rights to this streaming technology or whatever.
Yeah. I'd have to think about this for a minute because I've never really thought of it in this direction. But anyway, that's what comments are for. I'm sure
Yeah.
somebody can
Yeah, maybe they'll let us know
give
how
us
they
a
feel
direction.
listening.
Yeah, we'd love to carry this conversation on in another, in another video to. Maybe there's another angle to this that.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
There's something we're missing. Well, we didn't think about it a whole lot.
Right, that's the problem. That's the beauty of our videos. We just kind of
It's
get
a
a topic
philosophical conversation.
and, yeah, we go with it.
Sit down and start talking.
Yeah, right. And that's the way it rolls. And I'm sure it looks like that too, because that's what we're doing. We're not hiding the fact that there's no preparation here.
Yeah.
We're just doing it.
But I guess now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, you think like, just to Bluetooth your phone to continue using Apple Music in your car? Oh, not a big barrier? But it's enough where I don't do it.
I never did it.
I
It's
just
a
use
hassle.
Tidal
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it.
right.
I just
And I
don't
know,
want to.
like saying it out loud, it
Right.
sounds kind of silly, right?
Right.
But the trouble is, it works well enough with the inbuilt streaming. It's just not really worth it for that minor continuity bump.
Yeah.
But I know it would be an improvement of life if it was integrated perfectly and seamlessly, where it just worked and I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, for most people, that is a reality. You want to think as little as possible. And I think that's overall positive. A lot of people see that as negative. But theoretically, if you could imagine, if you could choose to not use your cognitive resources to consider whether or not your streaming services are compatible with your vehicle or your phone or whatever, and you could use these cognitive resources elsewhere, isn't that positive for the economy, the environment, the world, society in general?
Well,
I
I know
think so.
I know I'm using Tidal right now in the car. I get to work listening to a song, and then on the way it's like a bookend. Same
Right.
song on the way home. It's like, oh, like nothing happened.
And in some way, it's kind of nice to know. I think a lot of people deal like this. You
Yeah.
know, when you leave the car, if you're like, oh, I like that song, I got something to look forward to when I get back. It's kind of nice rather than dealing with like
Oh,
satellite
hold on.
radio
I
where
got
it's
a Bluetooth
different.
Set up, connected
Or
Bluetooth
yeah,
and
your
whatever.
app's closed, and by the time you get back to the car, now this app got quit in the background and it doesn't resume, or things like that.
Yeah.
It is amazing though when you think about it, how disintegrated all these systems are. When
They're
it
totally
would-
independent.
When it would, if they just all got together and said, "Hey,
Yeah. Well,
But there's no incentive
Yeah.
structure for them to do that.
no, they have to be independent." I get that. They're all making money on their own, in
Right.
their own way,
But the consumer doesn't care.
right?
Why do they? They just want
Yeah.
the service to work. And you're finally seeing some shift. You see cable companies. Now they're letting you stream cable to your TV and on your phone because people are realizing, why can't I just stream this TV show or whatever on my phone? I pay for the cable.
Well, Spectrum's allowed me to do that for quite a while now.
Right. But it took consumers pushing for it because initially they didn't want to do it.
But I'm
Go watch it on
spending,
your
I'm
TV.
spending probably over $200 a month on
Uh-huh.
Spectrum. So
Because they've been
shit,
losing
big
enough
deal.
customers.
Thank you very much for the
Right.
extra option.
isn't it higher quality though in the streaming too? Then.
I don't even know. I mean, I'm watching it on a phone.
Oh well.
But you could
okay.
extrapolate. You look at the incentive structures, and there really are none. It's just cable is trying to hold on to their customers as best they can because they know people are leaving for streaming. So they're saying, well, if we make it easier, if we make it like streaming, if we make it more accessible, maybe we have less of a reason for customers to leave. They still don't really have a reason for people to go back to cable, right? But less of a reason for you to leave. And that's the trouble. It's unless there's an economic forcing function, so to speak, companies are going to continue on with their normal plan until consumers demand by basically the way of their
Well,
wallet.
that is the beauty of having third-party apps, third-party companies that are trying to integrate all this. So, anyway, yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's, it's outside our control, really. It's really about demand.
You
about
need
consumer demand.
enough people with enough money to say, we're not going to continue paying for this service because it doesn't provide us the value we need.
Yeah, unfortunately, people don't tend to be very good judges of how.
It's a slow go.
Yeah, because they're used to the status quo,
Yep.
and so
No change can occur in that
Yeah,
regard.
right.
Well, I mean, like one of the biggest things that happened recently was Apple going lossless, which then forced everybody to have to do it. They all were charging for lossless versions of their service, and now Apple's like, bam, everything's lossless at the same price.
Problem
so it just
solved.
changed the whole. Everybody's like, oh,
Yeah,
so
they
Yeah.
seem to be getting over it though.
yeah.
I mean, at first it was like, ooh.
It was a big deal, but people kind of recognize it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't make a meaningful
Yeah.
difference. But you look like back in the day, it used to cost money to trade stocks, and now it just doesn't for the most part, except for limited circumstances. And all it took was one company to say, "Hey, we're going to do it differently. And
That's
we're going
true.
to make it free."
Yeah, everybody had to then. Because
Right.
like,
and you had
oh,
no choice.
You have to pay for
because
yours?
everyone
You
saw
know?
it was like the next day. Everyone was like, "Well, everyone's going to leave. we're charging $7 a trade. They're charging nothing. It has to be free. Otherwise, we need to figure out a way to make it work.
It's true.
Now, see, I'm on the opposite spectrum of that, where agreed, a lot of people will leave because it's free, but I don't have a problem paying $7 or $8 or whatever the subscription rate is.
Yeah.
If I feel that it provides me with a service
Well, yeah.
or better service,
Right.
Right.
or less mistakes or whatever the scenario is that I'm going to get otherwise.
But you need an
Sometimes
exceptional customer
free
experience.
is free. What you get what you pay for a lot of times.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So,
But what if you're already paying and disgruntled? You know.
well, then
Yeah,
hell,
right.
move
That's
on.
common, right?
That's
Yeah,
the thing.
I'd go for free and see how it
Yeah,
works.
right.
You'll
Right.
probably find that there's something in between. You know what I mean?
be.
It's kind of like two ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, that's happening with streaming now too. Like they got like ad plans now.
Yeah,
So I'll pay a little less, but there'll be ads. Okay.
right.
Gives you the choice. I think that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything can't be free. That's kind of the reality.
Well, people, let us know what you wish for on audio.
Yeah.
Give us in the comments. Let us know what you think we should be seeing
What's missing.
in this industry, and we'll do a video on it. We'd love to talk about it because we like we like sitting here and theorizing of what could be. Like our mono amplifier buildings. Each building
Yeah.
is an amplifier to drive our massive speakers in space.
Well,
In
we've been
on
asking
Mars.
for like 10 years now for a company to make as small as possible, ideally also mobile battery powered DAC amp thing that sounds like the best flagship desktop amplifier. And I get that's like technically nearly impossible from what we know, but it's not impossible. It's just very, very difficult.
It's just
So
all
we're
about
waiting.
it's just all about the battery and the power supply.
Well, and you also need to make it physically small.
Oh well, yeah.
There's a lot of challenges there,
Yeah,
but it is possible.
sure.
And not get very hot. If you want to put it in your pocket or something.
Right.
Right.
It needs to work perfectly
Yeah.
in everything all the time.
It usually boils down to how much money am I going to make on that one.
Well,
It gets to an expense, right? Where it's like, well,
We need
is it-
custom everything.
is anyone?
Custom
you
chips,
still
yeah.
can't carry it. It's 10 pounds. There's just no. You can make it smaller, but you're still cramming the same
no.
amount of shit in it.
they need to make it so I can carry it.
Yeah, the battery's the issue.
Ideally, it would eventually just be built into everything like magic.
We need to be able to transfer power from wirelessly through source from one place. to
No, I
another.
don't think that's
Well,
even
I
the
see.
case.
Maybe we'll get there. I see it like in Back to the Future. Go back to 1955. He has to recreate the one chip. In 55 technology.
With
and it's
tubes.
this big tube thing.
Yeah,
And
that was
now
cool.
it's like
Yeah.
Yeah, you look at the level of integration we're achieving now. Obviously, this is theoretically possible to continue this trend. It's just right now, I'm not seeing a lot of resources being put into this sort of thing for high-end audio because it's so expensive and the market kind of isn't there today. Well, people like the boxes. They like the gear.
Yeah, it's
Right.
not about the
Yeah.
technology as much as it's about the sound.
It's not really about the solution.
And you
in a
find
lot
that
of
they're
ways.
kind of always beating heads against each other when you talk technology versus sound quality. They're almost not the same plane. They're totally different. Technology is the antichrist of sound quality, so to speak. It's like,
Theoretically, you could have both. It's just today you don't see it.
yeah,
Well, I think that's the thing. Audiophiles like to know how the sound's produced, but non-audiophiles, make sound. So you don't
Right.
really care about
Right.
the box or the equiment at all. It works.
This
I
is
mean,
definitely a continuous ramble.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's no
yeah,
question. Yeah,
yeah,
we're
yeah.
going
Maybe
way.
put a wrap around
Yeah,
it.
right.
Yeah,
Wrap it up.
because there's all sides to this story. On that note, everyone, thumbs us up and take care of yourselves.